RVC had been telling us to work the horse because they couldn't figure out what leg was wrong, right? It was three different legs that they kept pinpointing were wrong. And they said, first we tried to rest her, right? We rested her for 10 days in the stall. So she had box rest. Then I started walking and trotting her to see if we could get her to be more lame, as bad as it sounds. That would make it easier for diagnostics. And that didn't make any difference. We did a Butte trial. That didn't make much of a difference. Nothing was changing. So I took her into the veterinary hospital to try to figure out, to do some proper diagnostics, right, with using the sensors where we could figure out what was wrong with her gaits in terms of millimeters, and then do more diagnostic imaging if we needed to. So when she got to RVC, they did all the trot ups and the diagnostic imaging and everything. And long story short, she had a torn tendon sheath in her left hind and two bad front feet. Tendinopathy, like chronic tendinopathy in both front DDFTs, deep digital flexor tendons. So, like, quite bad tendon damage in 3 out of 4 legs, and arthritis of the neck. The arthritis of the cervical spine was impinging on her spinal cord a little bit, so she wasn't showing like wobblers yet. But, and my thought was maybe that was causing some of the nappy behavior that we had been seeing at the yard. And when I went to work her at the instruction of RVC, I couldn't canter her. She would become really coiled in her body, like kind of showing that she was thinking about being explosive. I know that sounds a little lame, but when you're on a horse, you can tell if they're going to object to something that you're doing. So we didn't want to push her, right? I didn't feel like getting tossed off the horse. And there was the one day in front of my saddle fitter where she went up because I had asked her to canter. And I was very aware of that behavior. I thought, God, I'm not going to try to do that again. So when we discovered that she was so badly lame at the RVC, that was the day that I was also looking through her passport. And I was examining her vaccination records, which I really hadn't had much cause to look at before. And I was noticing that the postcode for the vets that had administered previous vaccinations looked like they might be in England. And the town that was given as the place where the vaccinations were administered also didn't exist in Ireland. It only existed in England. But the country code for the vaccinations that had been given was listed as IRE. So I called the phone number for the vet practice that was listed as giving the vaccinations. And they confirmed that they're in Surrey, they're in England, and they had a horse matching the description registered there. So it became very clear that she had been in England between September of 2024 and June of 2025. So in September 2024, she was sold at an Irish auction. In June of 2025, she was sold to me at an Irish auction. And in the meantime, she had been in England. So that was very concerning as well. The fact that all of her sales information was being deleted from the internet. She was clearly lame. Clearly, there was some behavioral issue that was needing to be investigated. And the fact that she'd been to England and then gone back to Ireland to be sold. So, but looking at the passport, I was wondering why it said IRE. But then I could see that someone had taken a slightly different colored pen and written over UK to say IRE. My guess is that this was done to hide the fact that she had been exported to England. So previously, I hadn't been able to find the person who had bought her in September 2024. And it was given as a different name than A. Walsh, who I bought the horse from in June of 2025. But through the name of the town on the vaccination page of her passport and the power of Facebook, I was able to locate the person who had bought the horse in September 2025. And what I learned was horrifying. I woke up to a message after I had asked, hey, do you know this horse? I had woken up to a message saying, have you ridden her yet? If you haven't, don't, or be very careful. That was awful. That was very scary because I had been riding the horse. I mean, gently, of course, but I had been riding the horse. So I learned that the horse upon being received in England after September 2024, had exhibited rearing, napping, bucking, but mostly very dangerous rearing. And I've seen the videos of her going up and basically being vertical and almost coming back over. And that she was returned to Keith Wilson in the spring of 2025 for being dangerous. And Keith had assured the person who had bought her that the horse was going to be a broodmare, or that they were going to investigate her behavioral issues and figure out what was really wrong with her before, anything else was going to happen to her. Unluckily for me, the horse then made her way to the sale at Cavan. So I contacted Cavan and I said, hey, I have reason to believe that the horse was known to be dangerous, contrary to the warranty, on the day that I bought her at your sale. Can I please have the contact information for A. Walsh? Because I was concerned that this person had sent her to the sale after maybe being sold the horse by Keith Wilson in a quick sale in Ireland, and that maybe they should know that they were sold a dangerous horse, and I needed to figure out what my recourse was. Now, this was in mid-August. This was after extensive investigations of the horse's behavioral and lameness issues, but without knowing, that the vendor warranty wasn't correct, right? I had assumed that the vendor warranty and the vet certs were correct on the day that I bought her. Going back to the issue of the bloods. So my post-sale vetting that I had done was clean, and they took bloods. When I asked them if they had found anything when they tested the bloods, they said that they don't routinely test them and that they store them. When I contacted that veterinary office in August saying, hey, actually, I'd maybe like to test those bloods now because I have reason to believe that maybe, she was drugged on the day of the sale, they said that the bloods had degraded and they weren't able to be tested. So I was a bit out of luck there. When I contacted Stuart at Cavan and said, can you please give me the information for A. Walsh, he called me and said, I'm very upset with Keith Wilson. And I said, why are you upset with Keith Wilson, who sold the horse in September, and to my knowledge, had nothing to do with the horse? It turns out Keith entered the horse in the sale. Keith Wilson took the horse back for being dangerous and immediately flipped her and sent her to Cavan Equestrian, being exhibited by a different person, selling her under a fake name, and pretended that he didn't even know that she was at the sale. When I contacted him after I bought her and said, oh, do you have any history about her? I bought the horse at the sale in June. I know you're a busy guy. He said, oh, we were so busy with others, I didn't even recognize her. I didn't even know she was there. Meanwhile, I've confirmed now that he was the vendor of that horse. He sold her to me under a fake name. He lied on the vendor warranty. He probably lied on the vet cert. I'm not gonna say what the quality of the horse's bloods were, but I don't know why she was sound on that day, and why she wasn't sound when I received her. But it's too late for me to test the bloods now because they're degraded. And when I notified Cavan of all of this, they have refused to give me any kind of remedy. They've said that they cannot enforce their warranty against Keith Wilson because it's more than 7 days since I received the horse, and he doesn't have any recourse, which I find really hard to believe given that the auction house acts as an agent of the vendor and that Keith Wilson continues to run horses through that auction house to this day. So they have tons of his money all the time. They could easily withhold money from him and refund me for that horse. In the meantime, Keith Wilson was the one dealer in Ireland that I didn't want to buy from. And what's kind of funny is part of the reason that I had been warned away from Keith Wilson by someone I trusted is I later found out because they had just been helping a girl get a new horse because she had been sold a dangerous horse by Keith Wilson. And that dangerous horse turned out to be the horse that I bought. Meanwhile, Sugar is doing fine. She had surgery. She's having rehab over the winter. I finally gave her a registered name. All of these things to prevent her from just disappearing into the system again and being recycled to a family, potentially with a child or somebody else unassuming who doesn't know what they're getting into. So whatever happens to her, she's going to have a good life as long as it's in my control.